All right, so we're diving into English grammar today using this cool online video lesson as our guide.
Yeah, and it's for beginners, so we'll really break down these core elements.
Cool. So like you're in that virtual classroom ready to learn, and it starts right off with sentence structure, subject plus verb plus object, that SVO thing.
Right, that basic formula.
They use the example, I eat apples.
Hmm.
I get that it's simple, but why is this SVO thing such a big deal?
Well, think of it like this. SVO is like the DNA of a sentence in English.
Okay.
Even like the most complex sentences, they're really just variations on that basic SVO pattern.
Okay, so once I get SVO, I can see how any sentence is built, even if it's super complicated.
Exactly. It's like having X-ray vision, but for sentences.
Haha, I like that. Okay, we've got the blueprint, but what about tenses? The lesson goes into present, past, and future, all with that verb eat again.
And here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Because these three tenses, they're how we talk about time, right? They let us put actions in the past, the present, the future.
Like, I ate, I'm eating, I will eat, same action, but the tense tells us when.
Right, exactly. It's how we tell stories, share experiences, make plans.
Without tenses, we'd be stuck in a single moment. Okay, we've talked about how sentences are built, but what about the little words that sneak in? Articles, those A, N-A, the words.
Yeah, they can be tricky.
The video gives some guidelines, like using A before a consonant sound, like a car, but before a vowel sounds, an apple.
Right, an elephant.
But it's more than just sounds, right?
It's about helping us understand if something's general or specific.
So a car could be any car, but the car means we're talking about one particular car.
You got it.
And that's where the comes in. It's like, hey, this specific thing.
Exactly. Like the teacher in this video, it's a specific teacher.
Okay, articles are making a little more sense. Now, pronouns, the lesson describes them as stand-ins for nouns, like Maria loves Maria's dog becomes she loves her dog.
Right, it's all about efficiency. We don't want to keep repeating those nouns.
It's like streamlining our communication. So instead of the cat sat on the mat, the cat licked its paw.
Right.
It's the cat sat on the mat, it licked its paw. Smoother.
Exactly. And pronouns also help us avoid ambiguity.
Ambiguity, how so?
Well, like if I said Maria loves her dog, we know her means Maria. But if I said they love their dog, we don't know if they is all men, all women, or a mix.
So pronouns give us more information even though they're shorter.
Right. And here's where it gets really cool. Pronouns and sentence structure, they work together.
You mean that SVO thing from before?
Exactly. Sentences have that subject, verb, and object, and pronouns can be any of those.
So in she loves her dog, she is the subject and her dog is the object.
Right. See, it's all connected.
It's like a puzzle where all the pieces fit together.
Yeah.
Now, what if we want to learn more? That's where questions come in. The lesson shows those key question words. What, where, when, why, and how.
Those 5 words, even with a limited vocabulary, you can ask about almost anything.
I used to hate looking up words, but then I realized if I don't get the words, I miss the whole point.
Oh, yeah.
So now I make myself use new words right away.
Oh, nice.
Helps them stick. Do you have any word learning tricks?
I try to create like a little story in my head with the new word, makes it more memorable.
That's a great idea. Okay, so we've got questions covered, but what about that verb that seems to be everywhere? The verb to be.
Oh, yeah. To be.
The lesson goes through its forms in present tense, like I am, you are, hesate is, and so on.
To be is like that Swiss Army knife of verbs.
Oh, I like that.
You can use it for so many things.
Yeah.
Your current state, your role, relationships, all kinds of things.
So it's not just about like where you are or how you feel, but connecting things, describing them.
Yeah, exactly.
Like she's a teacher or they are friends.
It helps us make sense of the world,
I see why it's so important. Now, onto plurals. Most nouns just add s or etes, like book to books.
Right, but then you have those irregular plurals.
Like child to children, foot to feet.
Yeah, English does have a few quirks.
What helps me is not just memorizing those irregular forms, but seeing them in real sentences.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
It's like instead of just studying a map, you're actually exploring the city.
Exactly.
And that leads us to something else that adds richness. Adjectives.
Ah, yes, adjectives.
The lesson uses examples like beautiful house, fast car, delicious meal. I love how they can make a sentence so vivid.
What's cool is adjectives aren't just facts. They show our subjective experience, too.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like one person might say a house is charming, another might say drab.
So it's about feelings and interpretations, too.
Exactly, and that's what makes them powerful.
I love how everything has this hidden depth. But let's do one more topic for now, prepositions. The lesson focuses on in, on, and at.
Right, those are some common ones.
But there's so many more, right?
Yeah, and they can be tricky, but they're vital. They
Mm.
show how things relate in a sentence, where things are, when things happen.
So they're like the spatial and temporal connectors, giving us place and time.
You could say that.
Hmm.
Don't be intimidated, though.
Oh,
Start
yeah.
with the common ones, and gradually you learn more.
So like with those irregular plurals, it's better to learn in context than just memorize a list.
Absolutely.
Ah,
Pay attention to how they're used in real conversations, in books, in movies. You know.
that's great advice. Well, I think we've covered a lot in this first part, from basic sentences to adjectives and prepositions.
Yeah, we have.
But like you said earlier, practice is key.
Definitely.
We can't just learn about it, we got to use it.
Right.
So get ready for part 2, where we'll dive into the best ways to practice and make this grammar stick.
Sounds good.
Hmm.
Learning grammar, it's a lot like learning to build something.
Okay, I like that. How so?
Well, imagine you're building a house, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't just read the blueprints and expect, boom, finished house.
No way. You got to get your hands dirty, try things out, probably mess up a few times along the way.
Exactly. And learning a language, it's
Mm.
kind of similar. You need to take those rules, the vocabulary, and actually USE them in real situations.
So it's not enough to just get the concepts. Got to actually practice.
Yeah, it's like learning a musical instrument.
Okay.
You can study music theory all day long, but you're not making music till you pick up that instrument and practice.
That's a great analogy. It really highlights how important the hands-on part is.
Right.
So for our listeners who want to start practicing, what would you recommend?
Well, there are so many ways, and it kind of depends on how you like to learn.
Sure.
But let's brainstorm some ideas.
Okay, what are your top suggestions for making grammar practice both fun and effective?
For me, number one is always finding chances to talk with, native English speakers or
yeah.
even other people learning the language. Nothing beats real interaction.
So put ourselves out there, even if it feels scary at first.
Exactly. Could be language exchanges, online groups, even just chatting with people you meet day to day.
And it's fine to make mistakes, right? Everyone does when they're learning.
Oh, absolutely. Mistakes, they're a natural part of learning. I'd even say they're essential for growth.
Okay.
Every mistake, it's a chance to learn and get better.
So embrace the mess-ups. Now, besides talking, what else helps?
Reading.
Reading. That seems kind of passive, though.
True, but you can make it active.
Oh.
Choose things that actually interest you, books, articles, websites.
Okay.
And as you read, pay attention to how the sentences are built,
Yeah.
how the grammar's used.
Like being a detective looking for clues.
Yeah. Underline stuff, take notes, try using those new words or grammar in your own WN sentences.
So reading becomes a treasure hunt.
Exactly. And we've talked about speaking and reading, but don't forget writing.
Oh, yeah, writing can be kind of scary when you're still learning.
True, but start small. It doesn't have to be a novel, just a few sentences each day.
Okay, so like journaling, short emails, even just notes to myself.
Exactly. Make it a habit, not just something for school or work.
I like that. And there are all those online tools now, too.
Oh, so many. Grammar checkers, websites with writing prompts, even places where you can share your writing and get feedback.
Helpful. It's like having a built-in support system.
Right.
Now, I gotta ask, I love movies. Can watching those actually help with grammar?
Totally. It's like absorbing grammar naturally, plus it's fun.
Okay, but how?
Pick shows or movies you enjoy. Pay attention to how the characters talk, how they build sentences.
Like you're studying their language?
Yeah. You'd be surprised how much you pick up just by listening.
But isn't it mostly passive listening?
You can make it active. Pause, rewind, try repeating phrases you like or that sound difficult.
Like having a personal language tutor.
Right.
What about music? Does that help with grammar, too?
Oh, definitely. Music, it has this way of sticking language in our brains.
Yeah, we remember lyrics so easily.
Right. Pay attention to how those lyrics are structured, the rhymes, how grammar is used to, make meaning and emotion.
So we're not just tapping our feet, but tuning into the grammar. But what if the lyrics are too fast or too complicated?
That's fine. Start with songs you find catchy, then challenge yourself. Look up lyrics, translate them, analyze the grammar.
Another treasure hunt.
Yeah.
Okay, so many fun practice ideas. But I have to ask, what about those times when we get stuck or frustrated? How do we stay motivated?
That's a great question. Learning a language, it takes patience. like anything worth doing.
Yeah.
There'll be times you feel you're not making progress, the rules seem confusing, you just want to quit.
We've all been there.
The key is remembering. Learning a language, it's a journey, not a race.
Okay.
It's about progress, not perfection. And celebrate those small wins along the way.
I love that. So what are some small wins we should be celebrating?
Could be anything that makes you proud.
Yeah.
You finally get a tricky grammar rule.
Mm-hmm.
You have a conversation without feeling totally lost. You write something without any errors.
It's those little milestones that keep us going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of help along the way, any favorite resources you recommend? Like books, websites, anything.
I'm all ears.
I'm still a big fan of a good grammar book, the old-fashioned kind.
Oh, interesting.
They give you that solid overview, and you can always go back to them for reference.
So those textbooks we maybe hated in school can actually be useful.
Totally. Think of them like your grammar toolbox with all the tools you need.
I like that. But what about for people who prefer learning online? Anything good out there?
Tons. Websites like Khan Academy, Duolingo, they have interactive lessons, quizzes, games, makes it fun.
Those are great for visual learners. I love those.
Right. And don't forget apps, Memrise, Rosetta Stone. They personalize the learning so you go at your own pace.
That's like having a grammar coach in your pocket.
Right. But if you want human interaction, a tutor or a language class can be great too.
Yeah, a tutor can really pinpoint what you need to work on.
Exactly. And classes, you get to learn with others, which can be motivating.
It's like a little community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So textbook, app, tutor, whatever works for you. There's no one right way.
It's finding what makes learning enjoyable. Before we wrap up this part, I want to touch on something important. Cultural understanding.
Ah, yes.
How can we bring that into our grammar practice?
Immerse yourself in real English content like books, movies, shows, music, but like we've been saying, don't just passively watch or listen.
Right. Be active.
Pay attention. How's language used in different situations? How does it reflect the culture?
It's like learning the secret language of a culture.
You got it.
Yeah.
You'll notice expressions, idioms, even humor that's unique to, English-speaking cultures.
Like a whole new level of understanding.
Exactly.
As we move to the final part of our deep dive, I'm curious to hear more about embracing the learning journey.
Ah, yes. Learning a language, it's an adventure, for sure. Ups, downs, discoveries, challenges.
And it's different for everyone.
Exactly. The important thing is finding what works for you, keeps you motivated, and makes learning enjoyable.
Not just about reaching the destination, but enjoying the ride.
Exactly. And remember, no one right way to learn a language. Experiment, try different things, see what clicks.
If you're feeling overwhelmed, remember to take a breath, appreciate how far you've come, and enjoy the journey.
That's it. And never forget, why you started learning in the first place. Whatever that reason is, let it fuel you.
That's a great thought to carry with us. Now let's take a short break and come back for the final part, where we'll uncover even more tips and strategies to make your grammar practice even more effective. All right, welcome back to our final part of this English grammar deep dive.
We've covered a lot of ground, from the basics to practice tips.
But before we wrap up completely, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how to approach grammar learning strategically. Like, are there any, pro tips you'd give?
Oh, definitely. One thing that I always suggest is to break it down.
Let's break it down. How?
Grammar can feel overwhelming, all those rules. So don't try to learn everything at once. Pick one grammar point and really focus on that.
So instead of feeling like I'm drowning in a sea of grammar, pick one island and explore it fully.
Exactly. Say you're struggling with articles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dedicate a week, 2 weeks, just to articles. Read about them, do exercises, use them in your speaking and writing.
Okay.
Once you feel good about that, then move to the next thing.
Like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Exactly. And speaking of building things step by step, another key strategy is review.
So it's not enough to just learn it once and then I'm done?
Nope, not really. Repetition is how those rules stick in your brain.
Okay.
It's like exercising. The more you use a muscle, the stronger it gets.
Right. Got to keep those grammar muscles in shape. So how often should we review?
It depends. Everyone's different. But I'd say at least once a week, even if it's just for 15, 20 minutes.
Okay.
Flashcards, quizzes, even just rereading your notes keeps it fresh in your mind.
So make it a habit. Now, you mentioned before, learning should be fun, right? Any tips for making grammar practice feel less like a chore?
Make it personal.
Yeah.
Connect it to your interest.
Okay, what do you mean?
Instead of just generic exercises, use topics you care about.
Oh, I like that.
Love cooking. Write a blog post about your favorite recipe, but focus on using grammar well. Sports fan. Record yourself doing commentary on a game. Make sure your grammar is good.
It's like finding the overlap between what I love and what I want to learn.
Exactly. Now, this might sound odd, but what about incorporating like play into grammar practice?
Play. Okay, tell me more.
Learning shouldn't be boring. When we're having fun, we remember better, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So why not play with grammar?
I'm all for it, but how W?
Grammar games, puzzles, even using humor.
Okay.
There are tons of online games and apps for that. Makes it feel less like work.
Makes sense. Or we can get creative, make up our own games.
Oh, that's even better.
Now, before we wrap up everything, I want to touch on something crucial. Patience.
Ah, yes, that's so important.
Learning a language, especially the grammar, it can be tough.
It is. It is. There'll be times you feel stuck, you make mistakes, you wonder if you'll ever get it.
Been there. So, how do we stay patient when it gets hard?
Remember that learning takes time. It's a process. Don't get too caught up in those moments of frustration.
Okay, easier said than done sometimes.
I know, but focus on the challenge, celebrate the progress, and remember every step gets you closer to where you want to be.
It's like a long hike. You got to enjoy the scenery along the way, not just focus on reaching the summit.
That's a great way to put it.
Well, as we conclude our deep dive, I want to thank you for all these insights.
Happy to be here.
It's been a fascinating look into English grammar.
My pleasure. Remember, language learning is a lifelong journey.
Yeah, it really is.
Embrace the challenges, have fun with it. Never stop exploring the language.
And for all of you listening, even basic grammar can unlock so much. Keep practicing, keep exploring, and don't be afraid to make mistakes.
That's the spirit.
It's about the journey and where that journey takes you next.